So welcome everybody to the National Building Expert Ask the Building Expert series. And just a brief background, why do we do this? Well, we do this to help a lot of people. And who are these people? It's anybody. And basically the areas of help to people would be helping building owners, condo associations, property managers, and more. And once again, thanks for sitting in. And I see people from all over the United States, including Hawaii, people from Florida, California, Colorado, San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles. There's also, you want to know who is attending? We got some architects, engineers, property managers, realtors, attorneys, one attorney, and some homeowners, condo owners, and condominium board members. So welcome. If I missed anybody, give us a shout out. Actually, Martin and I were talking earlier, and we're in a giving mood today. So guess what? We're going to be giving away our free booklet on building safety. You can download it at our website, buildingsafety.now.site. buildingsafety.now.site. It's actually a booklet on building safety, and it's part of a larger book titled Building Safety as well. And I wrote a book that had the chapter on building safety, which became a bestseller with Larry King. But enough of that. Please pick up your free gift from us. Let's go right into it. This webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a company that I own. And once again, the topic is building safety. And I'm going to tell you a thing or two because I know a thing or two. I gave a seminar several years ago to hundreds of people in San Antonio, Texas, at the BOMA International Convention. The BOMA is the Building Owners Managers Association. And I was one of the seminar speakers. There was about 4,000, 6,000 people there. Anyway, I walked into the convention center. It was my first time. And there was this huge poster and with my picture. And the headline said, National Building Expert Lance Luke talks about BS. And people were like scratching their heads, what is this? And it was standing room only. And the BS stands for building safety. Okay, so whether you're in a condo building, apartment building, whether you're in a hotel or manage a hotel or work in a hotel, shopping center, office building, industrial, golf course, anything to do with buildings, this webinar is applicable to you. So I'm glad you tuned in. Thank you very much. My passion for work over the past 40 plus years, has been building safety. And almost everything I do has to do with the topic of building safety, regardless whether I'm helping fix a roof of a building, concrete spalling, painting, asphalt, electrical, plumbing. It's all kind of boils down to the issue of keeping the building safe. So the question, why do we even need to worry about the safety aspect? Well, this is why we need to be proactive. A couple of months ago, we had a condo building, part of the building totally collapsed in Florida. And you probably all heard about it. And when I first heard about it, I said, nah, this can't be. This is what's happening here. And you're going to see in the future when the analysis comes out, when they pick apart the building and find out what the causes of the collapse are, you're going to see that it was partly due to the construction of the building, the design, and it was partly due to, in my opinion, majorly due to concrete spalling that was never fixed. And by the way, If you want to know more about the Florida building collapse, go to my website, floridabuildingcollapse.now.site. And I was interviewed by news media. I think there's like 4 video interviews there, and you can watch. Also, this is why we need to be proactive. We need to keep people safe. We don't want anybody getting hurt or dying because we haven't paid attention to fixing the buildings. Now you see this guy here, he's actually part of a building inspection program. So there's supposed to be a caption titled "Got Inspection Program," but I see you're asking what item should be inspected in such a building inspection program. Okay, so let's go down the list and see. Oh, there we go. Interesting. Got inspection program. So hopefully all the buildings have an inspection program. And what do you do with it? It's not like filling the blank, check it off, yes, no, good condition, poor condition, and then you file it away. You have to be proactive in following up on your inspection report. So let's talk about what's included in the inspection program and what things you need to be concerned about. So key safety components in any building, okay, and most high-rise buildings, smaller buildings that aren't high-rise buildings have similar building components. So we're talking about your fire alarm system, smoke alarms, smoke detectors, fire sprinklers if you have one. If you don't, you have fire extinguishers, emergency lighting, and signage. What are some other key safety components? Concrete spalling. Also, in addition to concrete spalling, you look for peeling paint, blistering paint, bubbled paint that could be hiding cracks in the concrete, loose corroded railing, and I'm talking about metal railing. If you talk about a townhouse building that's wood frame, your railing could be made out of wood. Check the wood for rot. There's reports of entire balconies collapsing made out of wood because the wood components got rotted out. Also leaking roof, leaking parking deck. In the Florida building, you had a leaking parking deck, and that could have contributed to the problem with the collapse. Also leaking windows where you have water going in from the outside to the inside and causing rot or mold or concrete spalling. Okay, so these are very important key safety components. If you look at the image that I attached, this is an actual photo that was used in a news broadcast when there was a railing collapse at Ala Moana Shopping Center. And I took that photo. I don't know why they didn't put my name on it, but that's okay. Other key safety components, there's slip, falls, trips. There's a trip and fall situation and there's a slip and fall situation, and they're 2 different things. A trip and fall, if you can see the photo on the right, the concrete sidewalk is not level, and sometimes it's due to ground movement, sometimes it's tree roots, but that's a condition where someone could trip and fall. A slip and fall is if that area is wet and someone could slip and fall. Okay, so it's 2 different things. And a trip and fall condition, you're talking about uneven steps, loose hand railing, that sort of thing. On a slip and fall, it's ponding water, or if you don't clean your walkways, you have all this moss and algae, and it's easy for people to slip. So check the walkways, your parking areas. If you have asphalt, there could be these bird baths, which are sunken areas where after it rains, it collects water and it could be a slip hazard. So be sure to walk around your building and check all these things. So It's very important that everybody be involved in this whole process. And when I say everybody, I'm talking about your site manager, resident manager, your board members, your property manager, and tenants in the building, if it's a commercial building. If you're a tenant or if you're a employee or work in the building and you see something, bring it up to the building management or security. Okay, that's what I mean about everybody. Everybody's working together to keep everybody safe. What else can we talk about? Unsafe windows. And I mentioned water, getting in the windows. But in this situation, if you look at the photo, this is an unsafe window. And why? Okay, why is it unsafe? Okay, this type of window, it opens from top to bottom, or it could open from bottom to top. That's called a casement or awning type window. It could be a sliding window, or it could be the old buildings that have jalousies. Okay, now why is it unsafe? Okay, for one, if you look at the window opening and you measure the space between the frame and the open window, it's about 18 inches. Okay? 18 inches is big enough for a child to fall through. If you look at the photo on the bottom of the photo, that ledge from the window is only about 6-8 inches. So can you imagine a child climbing up on the sill and crawling out and falling through the window? That may be 26 stories high. So that's why the key component is windows. Also, the older buildings have jalousies, and sometimes the glass slats are missing. The clamps are loose because the hardware is old, and the slats start falling down to the ground. And then you also have the same condition where you have windows from the floor to the ceiling. Anytime you have windows at the floor, that's unsafe. Even if the window wall is a little higher, all you need to do is put a piece of furniture and a kid could fall out too. Okay, electrical system. If you look at the photo, this is of a building where the top parking deck was leaking and water was just, dripping into their electrical distribution panel. Is that safe? No. You could have a huge power outage or short circuit. And then I'd like to mention plumbing, which is leaking cast iron piping. And did you know the very first condo in Hawaii was registered in 1961? That's 60 years ago. Okay, so if you're on this webinar and you're not from Hawaii, try to go back and look to see the age of the condos in your area. In Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, it's the same age or even older. So what I'm bringing up, the fact is that you have these buildings who were built in the 60s and 70s. They're 50 and 60 years old, and the electrical system and the plumbing system doesn't last that long. Okay, so that's kind of a heads up. Leaking cast iron piping, why is it a problem? Well, it's a problem because you have a leak and it's wastewater, and if you're in a high-rise building and you're on floor 22 and it's a massive leak, it starts leaking to all the units on either side and down below. It's not too safe. Okay, so the number of buildings that have old cast iron piping are so many that it created a enterprise for plumbing contractors to go replace the piping. So Martin and I decided to take advantage, and we're going to start our own plumbing company. And so far, we narrowed it down to 2 names and slogans, and we can't decide which one to choose. So we're going to ask you guys to help us out. Okay, so there's 2 company names and slogans. The first one is Flush It Good. We are number 1 in the number 2 business. And the second one is Casino Plumbing. We're a Royal Flush beats a full house. Okay, so show of hands, how many of you pick number one? How many pick number two? Wait a minute, I just got a text from somebody. I got a text from somebody that says, Lance, that was a crappy joke. But anyway, in concert with the leaking cast iron piping, okay, when you have leaks, it damages everything and it causes mold. And if your building was built in the 60s or 70s and it gets wet, your walls get wet, ceiling gets wet, and it's asbestos containing material, now you cause more of a problem. It's not only the wastewater in the property, now you got damaged asbestos in the property, and now you got mold growing. So that's just a heads up. Now, in concert with the inspection program, there's a repair and maintenance program. So if you only have your inspection program and no repair and maintenance program, you've not completed the entirety of what we need you to do. So you have an inspection program first, and then after that, you have your maintenance plan. Okay, so you take the data from your inspection report, and now you look at your maintenance and repair program. Now, what things can we fix? What things do we need to fix? Okay, so that's a whole cycle: inspection, repair, and maintenance is all together. So every building should have a plan. You want to be proactive. I was at a condo building one day and asked the maintenance manager if he had a repair and maintenance plan. And he said, yes. And I said, well, what is it? He said, oh, two things. If it moves and shouldn't, I use duct tape. And if it doesn't move and should, I use WD-40. I go, oh, okay. So let me see your toolbox. He opened it up, and sure enough, he had those two items, duct tape and WD-40. So I'm like, okay, well, at least he's trying, but he probably got to do a little better than that. Okay, and just be proactive. Don't just look around and, well, it's not that bad. We'll just wait. Okay, waiting is what causes the problem. Playing the waiting game or kicking the can down the road. Okay, also, guess what? If you wait and things become a problem, like an accident, somebody trips and falls or slips and falls, and it's a condition where you could have had it corrected and you get sued, it's hard to win that kind of lawsuit. Let's talk about condo laws. I know a lot of people that are attending this webinar live or manage in a condo. They could be board members. It could be a condo unit owner or property manager or realtor that sells condos. Here's what the law is, okay? There's a declaration and other governing documents that could be house rules, bylaws, design review rules, and that kind of thing. And if you take a look and read this information, in there is the condo law that basically requires the board to maintain their building. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is there's state law. In Hawaii, there's HRS 514B, and basically that's called the condo law. And if you read it, in it, there's conditions that state you have to, as a board member, do this. You have to do this. And there's nothing in the law that says if your building is falling apart or needs to be fixed, you do not have to fix it. There's nothing in that law. If you can find it, I want to know. In other states and counties, and we're talking about the state condo law, it may be silent on reserve studies, or it may be silent on doing certain things, but the best practice would be if you're a board member in a condo, you gotta fix the building because people depend on you. All those condo owners that are in the association look up to you as a board member and the property manager to maintain the property. There's no ifs, ands, or buts on this thing. Now, in addition to the state law and the condo law, specific condo law, what other things would govern fixing your building for building safety and keeping the building safe? There's a building code requirements, okay? And there's a whole bunch of building codes. And what kind of codes are we talking about? There's IBC, International Building Code. There's International Property Maintenance Code. There's an International Existing Building Code. There's HUD, minimum standards. HUD is Housing and Urban Development. And there's also state and federal laws. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you guys this. If somebody gets hurt in the building and they hire an expert witness and an attorney, all the expert witness has to do is say, oh, you know, the stairs that the person slipped at, it wasn't too cold. The railing was loose. And then how can you win a case like that? You can't say, oh yeah, well, we didn't know about it. Well, you have to know, because best practice is you inspect your building and you repair and maintain it, right? So it all kind of ties together. Okay. The other thing is that if there's a lawsuit because somebody got hurt, oh, we don't have to worry, we have insurance. But because of the Florida building collapse, the insurance companies now are really being strict. They're jacking up their initial coverage, and the premiums are super high. And in some cases, they said, well, if your building is that old and you haven't fixed it, sorry, find another insurance company because we're not going to cover you. The deductible is getting higher and higher too. And I've heard, if you haven't heard this, I've heard that insurance companies for a condo building, the deductible could be 25, 50,000. I've heard one building, the deductible was 150,000. It's either that or no insurance. So the insurance is not going to automatically cover. If they find some problem where, oh, well, it was your fault because you didn't fix your building and that's why there was this accident, why should we cover you? You're the one that was negligent, board or building owner or property manager. So that's the problem with insurance. It's not total full coverage. Read the fine print and then you'll see the policies are getting harder and harder to read now. So in concert with that, there's liability concerns and legal issues. You don't want a lawsuit if you're a property manager or building owner. And how do you prevent this? You be proactive and, you know, inspect your buildings and fix things. Make your own inspections. Make your own report. Don't always and only depend on a reserve study, because a reserve study could be erroneous. It could be wrong. It could be where they missed something, or things change monthly, yearly. So if at the time they did the inspection for the reserve study and there was no concrete spalling, a year later there could be concrete spalling, or there could be loose railing or things like that. So I have building expert recommendations for you. And here it is: inspect it, fix it, then maintain it. 3 simple things to do. So let's talk about these 3 different things. Inspect it. Okay. If in doubt, or you feel that you're not qualified, hire experts. So for instance, if you're a board member, resident manager, site manager, property manager, and you don't feel qualified, or you're not qualified to inspect the building, okay, then you have to hire an expert, somebody professional, architect, engineer, construction manager that inspects buildings for a living and they know what to do. You hire and pay them. Of course, it's going to be extra money, but if you inspect it yourself and you miss something, guess what? The court is going to say, if you didn't hire a professional, you now become the professional. Okay, Mr. or Mrs. board member, or Mr. and Mrs. site manager, resident manager. If you didn't recommend to hire, to let the board know to hire a professional inspector, then you're acting as a professional inspector and you're just as liable. you can't claim ignorance and say, well, I don't have any credentials. I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to inspect. I'm just a resident manager. Okay, well, didn't you like advise your board to hire somebody? Okay, so you're going to get in trouble if you don't. If you do, and the board says, we don't want to pay the money, why don't you go inspect it yourself? Okay, now the liability is going to be on the board if you told them that you're not qualified. Okay, what is the next thing? Fix it. How do you fix it? You're going to use your own maintenance staff, right, for small things. But if it's big items, don't, and board members and building owners, don't expect your maintenance guys to be doing stuff that requires a licensed contractor to fix. Don't go cheap. Don't try to save money, because the problem is that you got to use properly trained licensed contractors, because in the end, if there's a failure, if you don't use the properly licensed contractors and something happens, you're going to get blamed. Okay? If the licensed contractor fixed it and it didn't work, then you can blame them, right? So it's kind of creating this reduction of liability. Okay, and the third item is then maintain it. So you use your in-house people. If they can't do it, then go out-house. Okay? Go hire third-party vendors, third-party contractors, or people who specialize in doing this kind of work. I've seen buildings where the maintenance staff are required to fix plumbing, electrical, do concrete work, all that. And if they're skilled to do it, fine, but properly, they're not properly licensed to do that kind of work. But it's all trying to save money, right? Here's another thing. A lot of hotels and hospitals don't have licensed people doing the work. They have their own maintenance guys. And if the maintenance guys have a certification in plumbing or electrical, that's fine. But if not, then that's not the right thing to do, but it's done. And I'm letting you know that. So basically, that was my entire presentation on building safety in about 28 minutes. Okay. Before I get to taking your questions, I want to take this opportunity to announce the topics of our future webinars. And we have future webinars if you're interested. The next one is going to be in 2 weeks, and it's titled Building Codes and Permits. And I like that one because there's so much false news, false information, fake news, misinterpretation of the code going around town, that I want to clear up things regarding permits. I'm going to give you the facts on when a permit is needed, when a permit is not needed. And believe it or not, you're going to be really surprised. Okay? Really surprised. If you hear it from contractors, architects, we don't need a permit because of this, because of that, I'm going to be there at the webinar to set things straight. Okay, there's too much misinformation and contractors telling homeowners and condo board members you don't need a permit for this and that. Okay. The next webinar after that is preventive maintenance, and then I got 3 more to close out the year, which is asphalt reconstruction, then wood repair, and flooring and sound transmission issues. And this mainly applies to high-rise condos. Okay? And then in December, we're not having a webinar. It's going to be a Ask the Building Expert holiday party, where there's going to be live music, sing along, and you can win a lot of prizes. We're going to have games. And if you're on Facebook, you have to go on Zoom. I mean, you have to go on our website to register, because it's going to be on Zoom, and that's the only way you can win. If you're on Facebook, we do it live. You can participate, but I don't think you're going to be able to win anything. Okay. Also, past webinars on demand, and these are past webinars that we've given already, And I think I've given maybe 46 webinars to date, starting at the beginning of this year. And let me go briefly down the list. And these are webinars we've done already that are available. The videos are available on demand. Oh, you're asking where? It's on demand at our website called askbuildingexpert.now.site. If you go there, you can choose what webinar you want, what topic you want, and watch it at your leisure when you have downtime. Okay, so here's the interesting topics. And I put all these topics together because I know there's a demand and people want to know about it. So I'm going down the list. Contractor licensing, construction defects, senior safety in the home, concrete spalling repair, construction warranties, cast iron drain piping, air conditioning, railing failure issues, hurricane ties, roofing, premises liability, painting, reserve studies, Florida building collapse, fire and life safety in high-rise buildings. So as you can see, there's pretty interesting topics. And I'm gonna reach out now and ask you guys, if you have any topic ideas that you want us to cover, just give us a call or send us an email and we'll consider it. Right now, we have 24 webinars planned for next year and on different topics. And maybe not 24, maybe less, because we're looking at, Martin, he's a party animal. So he goes, instead of a webinar, why can't we have like a holiday party again? And I said, okay, we'll do the virtual drinks and food. But if this pandemic thing clears up, maybe we'll turn it into a, instead of a webinar, or we'll go to a restaurant and we'll do it live, right? And then we can also stream it on Facebook. So once again, I want to thank everybody for attending. And now is the time to ask your questions. Use the chat feature or the Q&A feature on the Zoom platform if you're on Facebook Live. Post your questions or comments in the comment section on Facebook, and Martin will be happy to read the questions to me because I'm not looking at the chat or the Q&A. Once again, phone number is 422-2132. I say once again, while I didn't even give it to you first anyway. Website is askbuildingexpert.now.site. And also, if you want the free booklet on building safety, you go to buildingsafety.now.site. I have like over 20 different websites, so I don't want to get you confused, but want to now talk to Martin and get him involved and see if we have any questions, comments, or anything from the audience. Martin.
Yeah, I'm here, Lance. I just queried our chat to see if anybody had any pressing. Nothing's come in at this point from Facebook or from our Zoom attendees, but we had some write-ins, that we've gotten from others. So let me ask those for now, and then we'll see if we get any more. First one I have here is, I live in a condo high-rise building. How can I be sure that the building is safe? I don't trust the board or property manager.
Wow, that's a new one. So the person is not trusting the board or the property manager. I guess there may be a bit of back history on this. But anyway, you can be proactive and walk around yourself and make a list, or if you want, and here's what I would do. And I'm on 6 boards, 3 of them are condo boards, so I'm on both sides, right? Go to the board meetings and participate and raise your questions and write down your questions and submit it. Submit it to the property management company and submit it to the board. the board of directors and ask your questions, whatever questions they may be. And don't worry about whether the board is going to go, we don't like your questions, or, you're not a board, you don't have a right to be asking these kind of questions or anything like that. You can't be worried about that or afraid. What you do is attend every board meeting and raise the questions and talk. And don't worry about what they're going to tell you. And they're going to try to sweep it under the rug maybe, but you just keep harping on it, because you're a condo owner. You're part of the condo association. The board works for you. It's not the other way around. Okay. The board reports to the association. So if you don't trust the board or property manager, that's what you can do, and keep asking those questions, whatever the questions are. If it's pertaining to building safety, concrete spalling, ask, say, I want to see the reserve study and what it says about when we should do our painting next. I want to see this, I want to see that. I noticed this, can you go and check it out? You kind of have to be the squeaky wheel in order for anybody to take any action if the board is not proactive. A lot of times the boards are, sometimes they don't want to listen to owners, or they think their complaints are not valid complaints. Okay? So if what you're asking as far as the board to check is not valid, and you become a nuisance, maybe that's why the board doesn't want to listen to you. But if you have a bona fide situation, and let's say you live in a penthouse unit and the roof's leaking, and then the board tells you, no, there's no leak. I mean, then you hire your own experts to come in, and you give the board the expert's report saying, Mr. Expert went in and inspected my condo unit. It did moisture testing, and there's definite moisture, and there's a definite leak, and I want you guys to fix it. Okay. Now, can you believe that some boards don't follow up and they get sued because they're not fixing the building? So just be proactive. If you need help, reach out to us and we'll advise you what to do. And hopefully things will get better. But I can tell you this, there's thousands of buildings in Honolulu. Most of the buildings are not in good shape. So don't feel alone, because all these buildings, if you drive around town and you look at older buildings, high-rise buildings, and you see swing stages and scaffolding and workers working and fixing the concrete or painting, that's an indication of these buildings are being proactive in fixing things. If you see trucks outside high-rise buildings that are plumbing contractors, they may be going through a cast iron repiping project. Okay? Or if you're in a townhouse building, and you see carpenters there fixing the siding or doing roofing, that's a good sign. That means that things are happening and the buildings are being fixed. So just try to be proactive, trying to get the board to be more proactive, and get the property manager and the management company involved also. So hopefully that answered the question. So do we have any other questions?
Yes, we do, Lance. We have a couple more. The next one is, my building is 60 years old and has never had any upgrades on the plumbing or electrical system. Should I be worried?
Okay, so the building is 60 years old and there was no repair or replacement of plumbing and electrical. Should I be worried? And the answer is an emphatic yes. And why should you be worried? You should be worried because the expected life of plumbing is about 35 to 40 years. So what does that tell you? That if your building is 60 years old and your plumbing, cast iron piping is only going to last 40 years, you're 20 years too late already. Okay. Now, the caveat is if there was an inspection done on the plumbing, and by inspection, I mean either a physical inspection where you cut open walls and you look at the pipe and you see how bad it is, or see how good it is, or you have a plumbing contractor use a video camera and send it down the pipes and document the condition. Only in that case, if the experts say, oh, your building is 60 years old, but your piping is still good, it's going to last maybe 10 more years. Okay. So now's the time to start planning for replacement. Likewise, on your electrical system, people think, well, electrical, set it and forget it. It still works, and only if there's like a power outage, a breaker that trips, then we'll call an electrician to go fix that breaker. No, that's not the best practice. The best practice is to have a electrical company come in and inspect the building and give you a list of things that you need to be concerned with. Because electrical system, the life expectancy, the lifespan is about 40 years. So once again, if your building is 60 years, you're 20 years behind the time. Okay. Now, it's possible that the electrical system could last longer than 40 years, but it's not you to determine that. You have to hire an electrical contractor to come in and do inspections and do an analysis. They do load testing. They check arc faults, ground fault protection, those kind of things, and give you a report. And most people don't do that. Most condos don't do that. You know why? Because the cost to have this type of inspection done is like $10,000 to $20,000, and they don't want the news. So they're thinking, the mindset is that we don't want to have the electrician come in and give us a report, because when he gives us a report, he's going to say, well, we got to change all this stuff and it's going to cost $1 million and we don't have the money for it. But that's not the right frame of mind or the right mindset or the right thinking. Okay. You don't sacrifice money and building safety. And the money issue is not going to win a lawsuit. If you say we didn't have money, that's why we didn't fix it. Because look what's happening with the Florida building. They didn't have money. The building collapsed. They were like $15–16 million short. They did not have the money. They had about $700,000 in their reserve fund, and they needed $15 or $16 million to repair. That's why they kept kicking the can down the road and nothing happened. Okay, so if you're a condo board member, or you live in a condo, or you're property manager of a condo building, condo association, don't let this happen. Okay, just keep harping on the board, and we want to get these things fixed. Ask for inspections. Say, I don't agree with your analysis, board. Can you hire an inspector to come in and take a look at the spalling and let us know if we need to do it now or later? And in almost all the cases now that I'm doing inspections, when they hire me to do spalling inspections, and the question is, do we need to, fix it now or can we wait? I tell them, fix it now. And I say, remember the Florida building? Oh, well, we don't have the money. Can we, wait till next year? I go, you can, but I'm not going to be liable. I'm telling you to fix it now. Okay? You don't know what's behind. When you see a crack caused by spalling, you don't know how bad it is. If you see a 12-inch crack on a lanai leading edge, that front edge, it's not 12 inches. When the concrete contractor starts demolishing that piece, it may be 3 or 4 feet, and it may be go in 3 or 4 feet. So now you're not talking about a 1 foot repair. You may be talking about a 4 foot by 2 foot repair, okay, that you didn't see because you can't see all the spalling. It's hidden in the concrete, and that's the danger of concrete spalling. Yeah, and when you hear more about the Florida building collapse, when they come and say, here's the reason, when the engineers tell the public, here's the reasons why the building failed, guarantee it's going to be due to spalling, or at least one of the factors that caused the building collapse. So I know it was kind of a long-winded explanation, but I hope that helped. So Mark, did we have any other comments or questions?
Yes, we do. They're coming in. This
Okay,
is
good.
from our Zoom. And this one is kind of related to what you just talked about. The question is, are surface cracks on the walls safe?
Okay, are surface cracks on the wall safe? I'm assuming that they're talking about a concrete wall. And it depends. If it's just a hairline crack or surface crack and not a spalling crack, yeah, that crack can be filled in. Okay, but it depends on the location of the wall. If it's a wall that's supporting a railing, you know, on a balcony or lanai that's on the 39th floor, that may not be too good. Okay, but what we do when we check spalling is we sound it. We take a hammer and pound on that area. So let's say we take a hammer and pound on the crack, and if it's solid and it sounds solid, then it's not a spall. Okay, if we take the hammer and pound on the crack and we hear a hollow sound, then we go, okay, it's a spall and it needs to be fixed. So if it's in a location where it can be easily fixed, then it's safe for the time being. But if it's a location that has to do with railing, or in a location that is at a window and the window frame could start coming loose, that's not a good situation. So I'm not sure exactly what the location is. If you can tell me, then I can let you know. But if I answered your question, that's good too. So I wouldn't be alarmed with shrinkage cracks or you know, cracks that are hairline over time. That's not what we're concerned about. We're concerned about cracks that are spalling cracks. Now, if your crack is not on a wall, let's say it's on a floor, on a parking deck, imagine when it rains, water can get in, and then it could cause spalling. So even if it's the cracks on the wall, when it rains, if water can get into the crack, guess what? That's already an entry to cause a concrete spalling condition. So I would say, you know, get it fixed as soon as possible. But yeah, good question.
Yeah, very good question. Yes. And I get a couple more here though, Lance. This one's asked, does Honolulu have a mandatory building inspection program like in Surfside, Florida?
Okay, the answer is no. Surfside, Florida has a mandatory 40-year building inspection. And what does that mean? That means that your building, when it is first built, it gets a certification, and then it gets recertified 40 years later. Okay, but in Hawaii, there's no such animal. So there's no building inspection program in Hawaii that after the building's built, it's a requirement that you have an inspection done. So it's wild, wild west. So in Hawaii, you can build a building anytime and not have anybody inspect it from the day that the building was built until forever. And is that smart? No, that's not a good idea, because building components fail at different rates. So for instance, my opinion in the Florida building inspection program, the 40 years is way too long. It should have been 20 years. And the reason why is that the concrete spalling can manifest itself at year 15 or year 20. So if you wait till year 40 to inspect it, you're basically 20 years too late already, see? So the idea behind that makes sense. But then on the other side of the coin, you're like, we're condo owners, and if we have to pay somebody to inspect our building, that's added costs. And I got a quote of 10,000 or 20,000. We don't have that kind of money. But once again, my standpoint is it's not about money. It's about being safe, keeping your building safe, and saving lives and accidents. So in answer to the question, Hawaii does not have a mandatory inspection program. I would be supportive. In fact, I tried to introduce that program idea to the city council after the Ala Moana building collapsed, and it got shut down because for various reasons. One of them was financial. These building owners didn't have money to pay to have inspections done. And the other thing is that they claim self-monitoring, but are these building owners really proactive? Are they really self-monitoring? If you drive around town and you look, some of these buildings are falling apart. And what does that mean? That means that the apartment building owner, the condo building board is not being proactive because they're not fixing the building. And that's why the mandatory inspection program is a good idea. So we don't have it yet. I'm for it. Most of the condo associations are probably not for it, but we talked to DPP about it, and DPP says, no, we don't need a mandatory inspection program. What we need is an educational program. Okay, well, that's the first step. You educate building owners, condo owners on what to do, what to inspect, how to inspect it, when to inspect it, and what do you do when the inspection results show that there's problems. Well, you go to the repair and maintenance program. Okay, so I'm all for education. So I'm with DPP on education. So that's the first step. So they may be taking the easy way out because they don't have enough staff to go around inspecting buildings and all that. But I would say the educational process is a good process. Why don't we start with that first and then see how far that goes? So any other questions?
Yes, Lance, we have another live one from our Zoom side. The question is, what if a condo is 3 years old and there is a drywall crack running the length of one wall? Who should the condo owner see to remedy this?
Okay, so the building is 3 years old and there's a crack on the drywall.
The length of the wall.
Okay, is it on drywall or concrete?
It says, I'll just reread the question. It says, what if a condo is 3 years old and there is a drywall crack running the length of one wall?
Okay, so the drywall crack sounds like the building's in Kaka'ako, but if it's not, okay, so the first thing is, if the building is 3 years old, there should be a warranty, or it should be still covered under the construction defect statute of limitations, which is about 10 years. So the first thing would be, who did you buy the unit from? You bought it from the developer, right? So contact the developer or their condo association and have somebody come and take a look, take a picture, take measurements and say, I want somebody to come and check it out for me. Let me know what's going on. And usually when I get called out to inspect, the first thing that these condo owners tell me is that, is the building falling down? Is the building moving? And they're concerned. And a lot of times it's stress crack. Yes, the building is moving. The building is designed and built to move. It's always moving. Even if it doesn't look like it's moving because there's wind, there's ground movement and all that. But the building's designed and built to withstand movement, even earthquake. So the drywall crack could be movement of the building. And it may be a hairline crack, but keep an eye on it. If it doesn't get too wide, uh, have somebody check it and let you know what the synopsis is on what the crack's all about, what caused the crack, and all that. If you're still concerned and you don't believe what they say, you can call a building engineer or structure engineer to come and take a look at it. But usually drywall cracks aren't that major. I mean, if it starts getting big and you can fit like a quarter in the crack, then I would be concerned. But I've inspected a lot of buildings and there's a lot of drywall cracks, and a lot of it is due to settlement or the drywall mud drying out, and maybe the mixture of the plaster is not good, but that's probably not the case. Now, if the crack is all the way along the wall and the drywall sheets are like 4x8, and if it's cracked more than one drywall sheet through the tape joint, that's something more alarming. But I would get somebody to check it out. If you can take a picture of it. And sometimes if the wall's white, you take a picture, it's hard to see. But if you take a picture of it and email it to us, I'll be happy to take a look at it for you and let you know what my opinion is. But by all means, contact the developer and have them send somebody out. And probably in most cases, they're going to tell you that's just due to settlement. Don't worry about it. Then, call us. Don't call us anymore, or call us later if the situation gets worse. But good, I'm happy to answer these questions.
Okay, Lance, we get one more, if you can take it here.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any Hawaii lawsuits resulting from unsafe buildings?
As a matter of fact, yes. And let me trying to look at my note here. Okay, so these are actual cases. I am aware because I was involved in as an expert witness on actual cases, and I have 4. One is the Ala Moana railing accident. I was an expert witness on that. So another one is a Marco Polo fire. Next is a Waikiki hotel. And the other one is, it's not really a high-rise building per se, but it's a shopping center, and it's the International Marketplace. But this is before the new International Marketplace. The accident happened with the old marketplace there, and I was the expert witness. That lawsuit was a slip and fall accident. So I deem all these lawsuits were an unsafe premises and an unsafe premises liability lawsuit because of the various problems that were problematic in these lawsuits. And there's more. There's a lot more. And the reason why you don't know about it is because what happens is they go into a settlement agreement, and this is a little legal thing I'm telling you. When there's either a mediation, arbitration, or if they can't settle it through those means, actual litigation, what happens is in settlement, the parties sign what's called a confidentiality agreement. And basically it says we're not liable, we're not admitting any liability, blah, blah, blah. But this agreement is a settlement agreement between the parties, and you are not to divulge any information regarding any admission or the dollar amount of settlement, who got what, how we settled it, and all this. In other words, it's like you have to not say anything. So after the agreement's signed, both parties don't tell anybody. And that's why it's not on the news and you don't know. And if you ask, they go, well, I can't tell you because I signed in an agreement not to say anything. So the problem is that there's more lawsuits that are settled out of court or through the court, but it's not on record. Okay. Or the settlement is the amounts are blanked out and you don't know, so it's not like you can have a healthy database. Oh, aha, this lawsuit here and they won 8 figures, another lawsuit here, they got $5.2 million. It's hard to track. And even if you talk to the attorney that filed the lawsuit, he can't tell you, right? Because he signed the agreement. So that's what's happening here. But anyway, I see we're out of time, but any other questions, last questions?
No, Lance, looks like we covered them all. I don't think I missed any on Zoom. I mean, not on Zoom, but on Facebook Live. So I think you're good.
Okay, great. Once again, on behalf of Martin and myself, Ask the Building Expert webinar series, we thank you for participating, whether you're on Zoom or whether you're on Facebook Live. Hope to see you at the next webinar, which is on building codes and permits. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you guys later. Aloha.